When Marvel's Wolverine was finally shown, I think most of us expected one thing: Spider-Man with claws. Same developer, same engine, same PlayStation exclusive. It would have been easy for Insomniac to take everything they already built, make it more violent, and call it a day. But after comparing every official gameplay clip side by side, I don't think that's what they're doing. In fact, I think Wolverine is showing us exactly what Insomniac learned from making Spider-Man over the last 7 years. From the HUD to the combat, stealth, movement, and even the way Logan interacts with the world. This game looks designed around one question: what would it actually feel like to be Wolverine? So today, we're putting both games side by side, using only official gameplay and developer information to see if Marvel's Wolverine is actually the next evolution in Insomniac's superhero formula. Okay, before anyone threw a punch, I noticed something almost nobody was talking about: the HUD. Now, I know that doesn't sound exciting, but hear me out. A HUD tells you what the developers expect you to pay attention to, and that's exactly where these two games immediately separate. Look how much information Spider-Man gives you: health, focus, gadgets, ability icons, traversal prompts, enemy awareness. Everything has a purpose, because Spider-Man is constantly asking you to make decisions. Should you launch this enemy, use impact webs, trip mines, spider arms, symbiote abilities, focus finishers? Even before combat starts, Spider-Man is already encouraging you to think several moves ahead. Peter Parker has always been the type of hero that wins because he's prepared. He's constantly adapting, improvising, using his gadgets, planning around enemy types, and the interface reflects that. It's busy because Peter is busy. Now, look at Wolverine. The first thing that jumps out is actually what's missing. There's far less competing for your attention. Instead of tracking several gadgets, the interface is focused almost entirely on Logan himself. Health, rage, the enemy, the fight. That tells me Insomniac isn't asking players, what gadgets are you using next? They're asking, how long can you stay aggressive? That's a huge philosophical change, because Logan doesn't carry equipment, he is the weapon. His claws, his healing, his instincts. Everything important comes from the character, not the gear he's carrying, and honestly, that's exactly how it should be. One thing I also noticed during the official gameplay reveal is that my eyes almost never leave Logan. The cleaner interface lets the actual combat become the focus. Spider-Man's HUD supports multitasking, Wolverine's HUD supports immersion. Now, a HUD can suggest how a game wants to be played, but combat is where those ideas either work or completely fall apart, and that's where things get interesting. Combat isn't just more violent, it's built around a completely different idea. Now, obviously, the first thing everyone noticed was the violence. There's more blood, more impact, and more brutal finishers. That's exactly what we expected, but I actually don't think that's the biggest difference. The biggest difference is what each game rewards you for doing. Let's start with Spider-Man. Spider-Man's combat is all about avoiding damage. If you've played either Spider-Man game, you already know how quickly combat becomes almost rhythmic. Perfect dodge, counter, air launch, web strike, finishers. You can spend entire encounters without taking a single hit, and that's intentional. Spider-Man is supposed to feel untouchable. Peter's agility isn't just part of the story, it's built directly into the gameplay. Even the gadgets support the philosophy. Trip mines separate groups before they become dangerous. Impact web removes enemies instantly. Web grabber pulls enemies together. Concussion blast creates breathing room. Spider arms control crowds. Everything is designed to keep Peter moving. The better you become, the less enemies can actually touch you. Then there's Wolverine. Insomniac almost flips the philosophy upside down. Instead of rewarding perfect avoidance, they reward controlled aggression. According to Insomniac's gameplay breakdown, every successful attack, parry, and takedown builds Logan's rage. That rage isn't just another special meter, it's the core of the entire combat system, because rage gives you choices. Do you spend it offensively, unlocking stronger techniques and devastating attacks, or do you use it defensively, activating Logan's healing factor to recover from damage and stay in the fight? That's a decision Spider-Man almost never asks you to make. Peter's goal is to avoid damage altogether. Logan's goal is surviving it. That changes every fight. Instead of backing away from taking a hit, Wolverine encourages you to push forward, take another swing, parry, counter, counter, rip the momentum back, and that fits Logan perfectly. Think about Wolverine in the comics or films. He's never the guy dancing around the battlefield trying to not get touched. He's the guy who gets knocked through a wall, stands back up, and keeps coming. The gameplay finally reflects that identity. Another thing I noticed, watch how enemies react. Spider-Man enemies often get launched, suspended, webbed, juggled. Combat almost looks choreographed. Wolverine's enemies look like they're absorbing genuine force. They stumble, collapse, get slammed into walls, dragged, thrown. Every hit feels heavier, not necessarily faster, just heavier. That's a small detail, but it's one of the biggest reasons Wolverine immediately feels different. The animations sell the weight behind every slash. Even Logan himself looks different. Peter rarely plants his feet. He's constantly flipping, rolling, jumping, changing direction. Logan lowers his shoulders, charges forward, swings with his entire body. Even standing still, he feels dangerous. It's almost like Spider-Man wants combat to look beautiful, while Wolverine wants combat to look painful. And I think that's one of the smartest changes Insomniac could have made, because if Wolverine fought exactly like Spider-Man, he wouldn't feel like Wolverine at all. But combat isn't the area that surprised me the most. That honor actually goes to the next category, which is stealth. When most people think about Wolverine, they probably aren't thinking about stealth. They're thinking about claws, rage, and charging straight into a fight. But after watching the gameplay several times, I think stealth might actually be one of the biggest improvements Insomniac has made. Let's start with Spider-Man. Spider-Man's stealth is built around control. Most encounters begin from above. You're perched on ceilings or pipes. You can scan the room, mark enemies, look for safe takedowns, use web lines to reposition, take out isolated enemies one at a time. The goal isn't simply staying hidden. It's slowly turning a room full of enemies into a room where no one is left standing. It feels calculated, methodical, almost like solving a puzzle. Now compare that to Wolverine. The official gameplay doesn't show a whole lot of the stealth from Wolverine, but you can notice some of the stealth mechanics involved. The moment he attacks, stealth ends immediately. That tells me stealth isn't the objective, it's the setup. Spider-Man asks, how long can you stay hidden? Wolverine asks, how can you create the perfect first strike? That's a huge difference. One of the coolest details is how quickly Logan transitions from stealth into combat. There isn't a dramatic pause, no long animations where the game resets. He explodes out of hiding and immediately takes control of the fight. That keeps the pace high while still rewarding players who take the time to plan. I also noticed that Logan doesn't look graceful while sneaking. His posture stays low, but his momentum feels heavy, almost animal-like. It looks less like a superhero hiding and more like a predator closing the distance. That fits the character perfectly. Okay, now we're going to be going into environment. The environment isn't just background decoration. One thing I kept catching myself doing while watching the gameplay was looking past Logan. I started watching the world instead, because unlike Spider-Man, the environment often reacts to Wolverine. Spider-Man certainly interacts with the environment. You can throw objects, use the walls during combat, swing through the city, but the world itself usually stays intact. The focus is movement. Wolverine feels much more physical. We've seen Wolverine smash enemies through objects, throw opponents into walls, break pieces of the environment during combat. These aren't just flashy animations. They reinforce the fantasy of playing as someone whose primary weapon is his own body. Every broken object, every impact, every slash. That brings us into movement. Movement might be the most divisive difference. Let's address the obvious question. No, Wolverine isn't trying to compete with web swinging, and honestly, it shouldn't. Spider-Man's traversal is built around freedom. Web swinging, point launches, wall running, corner tethering, web wings in Spider-Man 2. Nearly every movement system exists to keep you flowing through New York without stopping. It's one of the biggest reasons those games feel so satisfying. Marvel's Wolverine appears to be chasing something completely different. Instead of speed, it's chasing physicality. The gameplay shows Logan vaulting obstacles, scaling structures with his claws, squeezing through tight spaces chases and sprinting directly into combat. The gameplay shows a much more linear type of gameplay. Movement feels purposeful rather than flashy. Insomniac has also confirmed that Wolverine is a linear, story-driven adventure rather than an open-world game. I actually think that decision explains a lot. Without designing around a massive city, the team can build every level around handcrafted encounters. Every climb, every chase, every combat arena, every environmental interaction. That allows movement to support the story instead of simply getting you to the next objective. Some people will absolutely miss web swinging. I probably will too, but I don't think that's the comparison we should be making. The real question is, does Wolverine's movement make you feel like Logan? Based on what we've seen so far, I think the answer is yes. So the biggest difference isn't gameplay, it's tone. This might actually be the area where these games are the furthest apart. Spider-Man is optimistic, even during emotional moments. Peter remains hopeful, cracks jokes, protects the civilians, carries the responsibility of being a hero. Wolverine immediately feels different. The lighting is darker, the dialogue is more direct, the violence has consequences. The official gameplay spends time showing Logan's relationships, his intentional conflict, and the burden that comes with being Wolverine, not just the action. That slower pacing between fights is important. It tells me Insomniac isn't relying on brutal combat to define Logan. They're trying to build the person behind the claws. I think that's exactly what the game needs, because if the story only focused on violence, Wolverine would become one-dimensional. The character has always been more interesting because of the struggle between the man and the monster. If Insomniac captures that balance, they'll have something very special. Now, the small animations tell the biggest story. Here's one final thing I couldn't stop noticing: the animations. Spider-Man's animations are incredibly fluid. Everything blends together. One dodge flow into another attack. One web strike flows into another combo. Movement almost never stops. Wolverine looks completely different. Every attack has a beginning, a middle, and an impact. You can see Logan planting his feet before swinging. His shoulders rotate. Enemies react to the force of each hit. His recovery animations are slower. That makes every attack feel heavier. It's a subtle difference, but the animation timing changes how players perceive combat. Spider-Man feels fast because the animations rarely pause. Wolverine feels powerful because the animations allow every impact to breathe for just a moment longer. That extra weight makes Logan feel exactly like you'd expect. Not elegant, not acrobatic, just ruthless. So after comparing everything side by side, what's my biggest takeaway? I don't think Marvel's Wolverine is trying to replace Spider-Man, and I don't think it should. Spider-Man is one of the best superhero games ever made. Instead, I think Wolverine represents something even more interesting. It shows that Insomniac didn't simply copy a successful formula. They looked at what worked, asked what fit Logan, and rebuilt major parts of the experience around the character. The cleaner HUD, the rage system, healing factor, Predator-style stealth, heavier combat, environmental destruction, the darker tone, even the animations. Every one of those decisions pointed towards the same goal, making you feel like Wolverine, not Spider-Man with claws. Of course, we still haven't played the full game. There are questions that only launch day can answer. Will the combat stay fresh over dozens of hours? Will the story deliver emotionally? Will the level design make the most of the linear approach? We won't know until September 15th, but based on everything Insomniac has officially shown, I'm more excited now than I was before this gameplay reveal. And I think that's exactly what a showcase is supposed to do. Now, I want to hear from all of you. After seeing the gameplay, what change impressed you the most? Was it the combat, the stealth, the darker tone, or is it something I didn't mention that stood out to you? Let me know down in the comment section below. Now, I absolutely appreciate your guys' time. Now, if you could do me a favor and hit the like button on this video, hype up the channel, interact in any way possible so that this video and my content can get seen by more people. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. Share my content with someone you might think will enjoy it. Let them know to like, share, comment, and subscribe as well. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys have a good day, good night, and a good morning wherever you're at, and I'll see you in the next one.